Hey, I'm just about to head down to the garden. It's obviously been raining a lot in New South Wales, Sydney area, and up here in the Blue Mountains as well with the current weather at the moment. So I thought, given we're doing a bit of a permaculture system here, I wanted to share a little bit about how the water is actually impacting the block and what's happening at the moment. Obviously we're only halfway through getting stuff set up, but I'm going to show you a few of the things that have been happening. So the first thing, hopefully I can just show you from here, is you can see that this is where our cars are going to get parked pretty soon, and then you can see the water just here flowing out from underneath. It's actually flowing all the way down this driveway section here, kind of slowly, and then it builds up here, it flows down, and then it just kind of goes into our banana circle there, which is doing a really good job of catching that water and storing it and soaking it into the ground. But I did notice that last night actually even this circle started to push out, and so if I go a little bit further down, you can see that some of the soil is actually getting washed away down here and into the bottom corner there onto our path. And so that's not really what we were hoping for. Mostly that's actually happening because I haven't gotten around to I'm going to put a pipe into that banana circle to drain the water when it gets to a certain level down into the next one. I mean, thankfully that's where the water is going. It's going from there straight down into the next banana circle there, which is also filling up with water. But then if I move a little bit over here, you might be able to see that the water is also then coming out of this banana circle, and you can see some sand getting washed out and going over our path there. So it's still a bit of a work in progress. That banana circle is actually meant to reflow onto the path here that's behind me that goes towards the back, and that's not quite happening. This banana circle didn't quite fill up before it started pushing some of the sandy soil out of the circle, and it's pushed it straight off into the path. So I'm going to go for a walk and I'll show you a bit more of it as we go. Okay, so if I just stop here, I can actually show you how the water is building up here in the section. This is going to get filled with soil eventually anyway for our cars to be parked on, and our level spot for the cars. But you can see if I get down, there's water just flowing down here, and it just comes all the way down, and the sand is built up here, and so it's now actually leaking through the wood that's there, and yeah, so that water it's slowing down, but you can see it's brought a lot of sand down from where my driveways were meant to be, so my builder's probably going to have to put some more soil back there. But I mean, thankfully there's actually a bit of a pile up there anyway for him to use to spread over that. But yeah, that's this bit. No, keep going. And so here you can see it's where it's coming out. So there's a couple of sections. There's one here where it's coming out, and then if I turn down that way, there is another section just there where it's coming out underneath the wood. And this one over here is the main one that's going into the banana circle. This one here is actually coming out and cutting, so you can see here, across my path. So I actually dug that across there so that it would go across underneath the deck where there isn't mulch for it to wash away, and it's kind of flowing and trickling along there. It was, before that, just to get out of the way here, it was before just coming down a bit differently, coming across the path and down along. And it actually, when it rains heavy, it still does do that. I'm actually going to see if I can flip this around and show you. Here it comes out just underneath that rock, and it washes down here. It's washed away. Well, I don't even know if it's washed it away. It's definitely moved it to the side, but you can actually see that's rock there. Because our path is actually just mostly mulch on rock, and we're trying to build up the soil. But it comes down here, and this is the way that the water wants to trickle. So I'm trying to just send it straight across the path. I did that when I was bringing mulch down to mulch all the paths, because I just thought it would be easier for the wheelbarrow if it was straight and not wobbly. But it ended up just getting recut out anyway. And so down here, this is just our pile of cardboard there, and it washes along there towards that garden, and then it actually cuts across down to the left. So if I follow the water here for you, it then cuts down here. You can see it flowing, and it goes into this little trench, across there and then down and under the gate over there is where it's going at the moment. And these here, which before the mulch you saw were actually catching soil, I think they still are catching lots of water and soil, well not so much the soil but the water underneath that flows across, because the path is actually sloped towards this garden bed. So that is something that is still happening. It's just happening underneath when the water is not going super fast and through this channel. And I might even, given this channel is now been carved out, I might even think about putting some rock down in there, which might be really cool. Now I'm going to bring you up over here so you can see, this is where the water's coming out of our banana circle there. It's actually washed away a bit of a sweet potato there that's just got planted the other day. The water's washed over and washed some soil away from that. I'll need to replant that. And then, oh, look at that, you can actually see there's a sweet potato down here that's come all the way out. So I'm going to need to plant that back in the ground so that it can grow. But then it's just coming down the path. So I'll flick this around again, washing out here, and it's going down this path. And this is a swale that we've built up. So you can see, this is our grass. It's super long. I haven't mowed that since we got rid of the geese. So it's now just, growing mammothly. And I'll need to get a whippersnipper onto that so I can then feed it to the goats and the chickens. But you can see that comes down here, and there's a bit of a trench here that goes the whole way along just before these trees, and that's the first swale to catch some water runoff from that slope. And that's going to become a full citrus guild. At the moment it's just citrus and sweet potato, because I haven't managed to get to the shops to get everything else because we've been too busy running around doing other jobs. Over here, this is another swale, and this is going to get all planted up as well. I'm continuing the citrus guild really, and the water is meant to just kind of get caught here, and it slowly angles down this way so the water doesn't rush too fast along here. But because of the amount of rain we've had, it has washed a bit away here, and then it comes down here and comes through the fence, washing down, and that then goes down the hill past the wheelbarrow there, and it's meant to get caught into our raspberry beds there, where it's going to catch some more water before it then flows off into the bush behind us. So you can see if I cut back this way, that's the path at the moment. It's quite muddy, but it still seems to be doing its job pretty well, soaking water in, even though the amount of water at the moment, it's all, the soaking has happened and now it's filled up. But let's go down. So just continuing our walk down here. This is a fairly new bed here, just turn that way, that we were planting up. It's just Australian natives that are edible. So there's some midgeonberry, there's a few other things in here that we have a look for you. There's muncheries, which are a kind of a berry similar to midgeonberry, I think. And there's some Davidson's plums and some other berry type plants that are native to here in Australia. But even here, look, you can see this is on a slope, right? So the slope comes down, the water's meant to soak in behind that new garden bed. The soil's being held up by the rock that's down here, but you can see there, right, what we actually have. I'll make sure I work on my camera skills here for you. The water is built up so much behind there that it actually decided to wash away some of the soil that we just put that there, so it was quite new. So you can see the cardboard still, it's just washed it straight off the cardboard and down, washed it out through the rocks here, and then it goes down onto our path. Now, I don't mind that too much because it's telling me where the water is going to put the most pressure. I'll put soil back in there, and then you can see, I'm going to flip this camera around so you can then see how that goes across my path, and it's carved a bit out there, and it hits over here near this swale. Now at the moment it's turning to the left here, but it needs to go to the right. So if I just cut some of that out like that, just use my boot there to move it, and the water will soak in then to the right, where it will actually get caught a bit more for the garden bed there, which is really good. And now I've done it, you can see the water's actually running across, and it will just soak in that way, and this direction is kind of dried up already, but that's where it was sending it. Washing through the mulch again and down out into the bush. Now this will, that will fill up and then it will overflow this way still, but that'll just allow a bit more water to soak in. But as you can tell, it's been raining a lot lately, and so it's quite soaked in. The ground is generally quite soft and mushy. So let's go have a quick look at the garden. So up here, we've got our quail tractor here that's working behind me. They're all huddled around their food. It's gotten a little bit wet in there. I might have to sort that out in a minute. But you can see the water is running off of our neighbour's stuff and coming through onto our land and coming down, and then it washes down here behind the greenhouse, where I've put gravel in and I've dug a trench out of there, which should allow the water to soak out, particularly that way behind the water tanks. But since I put the water tanks in there, it hasn't been working properly. I need to fix that up a bit. I've noticed there's been a little bit of flooding down here, and it's actually gone into the greenhouse a bit. Thankfully there's nothing on the ground in the greenhouse that can't get wet anyway, so that's pretty good. But I need to fix that for sure. And then you can see here, look, anywhere where there's been no sun, like that's just mud under there. It's quite boggy, quite squelchy everywhere that we go. But I'm going to show you through our beds what we have in here at the moment and show you how things are growing. So our first stop will be our cucumber archway. This is actually a really late plant of cucumber. We've got basil in between as well as some chamomile underneath, and that seems to be doing really well. We've already started harvesting cucumbers from that, even in this weather, which is a bit crazy. Cucumbers normally like more heat, and I'm sure that it will get more heat soon, but that garden bed seems to be doing quite well. Right next to it here is a bed. It's fairly empty, this bed. I don't let them look empty. It's only got, like, there's a big marigold there that's growing really nicely, and then there's a few spuds that I feel like they're probably a bit more leftover than anything else. I think Mel planted them as our second round of harvesting for that, so we'll wait till that gets done. But already that's got the same bug that our last ones had, those little black beetles that eat the leaves. But I mean, they survived, so I think it'll still be okay at the moment. And some basil in there. But I think Mel's also put a few seedlings in just recently, because we were getting ready for the edible garden trail. You want to make sure your beds are nice and full when you're on show. So down there's a few little seedlings that look like lettuce of some kinds to me. It's I mean, she hasn't told me where she's planted everything. I just know that I bought it all. This, I'll show you the hedge here. I'll give you a bit of a view down into the garden, and I'll talk to you a bit about that, and I'll walk you through there without my face and everything, I think. Alright, so this is the view down into the garden. You can see I've come up from just over here where I was talking to you about the water that's affecting our greenhouse. This is the bed I just talked to you about. I'm standing next to our cucumber bed. On the left here, this is the first bed that we really put in, and it's more of a guild. So we've got comfrey up here right next to our composting bins, which are full, and it grows back. I mean, the geese ate all that before they left. That was only a couple of weeks ago, and now it's huge again. Well, the rocket here is starting to not enjoy how soggy it is. You can see it's turning yellow. Hopefully the sun will come out in the next couple of days, but I doubt that. The forecast is actually for rain for the next couple of weeks. But you can see here we've got our lily pillies coming along, which is cool. Hopefully the sun comes out to help ripen them. This is alyssum underneath. Alyssum, I can never remember how to pronounce it. But if we actually have a look here at this one, you can eat the flowers that are on alyssum. So not only are they beneficial as a ground cover, but they're actually quite tasty. Beautiful little flowers. We've got here some pigeon pea as well. So this is just a little one that's coming up. There's a bigger one, and we'll see down the bottom where there's much bigger ones than this. These ones seem to be taking a lot longer to grow. Here coming down this way, you've got basil. Mel seems to have something here in a pot that she wants planted. It doesn't have a name on it or anything, so not sure what that is. There's some fennel here that's just come up on its own, and that is beautiful stuff, so I'm looking forward to when that gets nice and big, particularly when it flowers. I love watching all the bees and stuff go for the flowers of that. We have some more basil here that was gifted by our neighbours just over this fence. We've got more pigeon pea, which is really a beautiful, quick growing legume. Produces some wonderful little legumes. So they look like lentils, but they're not lentils. They're a pea, but they are really, really delicious. We love those. And yeah, so this is going down here, all the fruit trees, and you can see the larger pigeon pea down the back there, and some flowers still surviving even in the wet, with the alyssum pouring over the sides. This here is a freshly planted lot of kale, our beans here, which have been growing for a while, but I don't think there's much of a bean here at the moment, just because it is so wet, and so they haven't really had a chance to enjoy some heat. There's flowers, but there's no bees out in this rain to pollinate those flowers. So hopefully they'll still be there with some flowers lasting a bit longer. We've got some nice tall flowers here as well. I might go around this way. You can see, look, I'm just going to show you down here, look, the bottom of the garden bed, because they're on contour, even the garden bed itself is acting a bit like a swale here, holding up the water, allowing it to soak in. It's a really cool thing about permy design. But again, this is the overflow. It's just been so wet, there's so much overflow. This beautiful bed here, this actual zucchini is still in this bed and growing out of it. You can see it just there in the corner is where it is, just at the back corner. So it's still going all right. It's still got some zucchinis on them. Obviously the ones that were nearly ready to be picked are now a bit mushy and not really any good. But you can just see the problem with so much rain. Like, all these lettuces are just getting squashed. They're suffering a bit under that sogginess. I love this nasturtium, it's fantastic. We've got more beans in here. Looks like Mel's planted our leeks in here as well, nice and close. They're deep. You can plant them really densely, and you bury them as far down as you can when you first put them in, really, and that they'll grow up. And this is our celery that's growing next to it. You can see how much the water has really been heavy rain, because this has all just been splashing up, this mud that's on it. That splash up, we didn't put that mud there, it's just all the rain. Keep going over this way. Looks like there's a few more in here of the celeries, more kale at the back, and some lettuce. That lettuce has been protected so that it doesn't get eaten by probably the birds, what she's trying to protect it from there, but the little birds will still get into that. This is our lovely archway. We've loved this archway all summer. It's just been covered in scarlet runner beans, and they have been delicious. We've eaten so many of them. Just a great plant. We'll definitely be planting them again. We got lots of these pods that were drying. They were drying on the vine, but now they're going a bit soggy. So we've actually brought a whole bunch of those in recently so that we can dry them inside. We've got so many seeds though now for this that we've saved, so looking forward to planting it again next year. On the other side of this, as I walk around here, still got our carrots in the ground there, and that's looking like a pretty good bed. We'll pull up those carrots pretty soon, I imagine, and replant. This bed I love this bed. This is one of my favourites. It is full of just rainbow chard, but again, this is how wet it is at the moment. The rainbow chard is literally going yuck and gross and squishy as it grows, and so I've just chucked it back down here. It'll get eaten by worms and go back into the ground, but it's quite gross. I mean, look at this one. Look, it's literally falling apart because it's so wet in here. If I zoom out a little bit, you can see some strawberries that are growing around the edge here. Now, because we haven't netted them so much, we haven't gotten heaps of them, because we live near the bush. There's bush rats, there's all kinds of stuff that come up and get into it, but this is just the beginning. So we want these to spread and grow, and we'll make more of them, and then we'll actually be able to eat quite a bit of it. You can hear the highway, some trucks going down, some trains coming past. Over here, you can actually see, look, this is the water that's coming across from the neighbours. It's like it's coming down his driveway there, and it's washing over here, and then look, it normally kind of runs down the fence, but because it's so much at the moment, it's been running through here, running over the top of the garden bed. So this poor oregano, lucky it's on high ground, it's got lots of water, and so it's coming in here Some of it's getting caught here, other bits are just washing down the side here. And you can see there's actually a straight line, which is probably something we need to think about fixing if this kind of rain is a usual thing. I don't think it is a normal thing, but that's alright. What else have we got in this bed? We've got these beautiful little cucumelons, which are beautiful. They just look like watermelons, but they're cucumbers, and they are absolutely delicious. And currently, look at that, there's quite a few of them in here that are growing, so I'm just crunching in the background and eating. These are our snake beans. So these took a bit longer to actually produce, but again, covering our beautiful archway, we're loving it. And we've harvested lots of the seed. So you can see this one here, it's still drying out. Hopefully it gets a chance to dry out, because I'd like to get some more seed for that. But doing really well. And I think down here, this is what I actually came out here for originally before I started making the video, is to actually go and harvest those onions that are just over there. I'm going to pull out a couple of onions to make a green soup for dinner. And there's more. This is asparagus fern that's growing there. Well, it's asparagus, like the real asparagus, and it's all underneath here. So it's a chance for it. We planted it this year, so we planted a few things on top of it to just enjoy the garden a bit more too. So this beautiful, there's a whole little hedge here, which was great for keeping the geese out of this little bit actually while they were here, but now it's getting to the point I'm going to harvest that. There's some rhubarb down the end. Rhubarb generally likes water, but it also needs a lot of sun, so it's struggling a bit over there. You can see that's actually wilting and going a bit gross there. We've planted a whole thing here of cabbage. Now you can see we've got a little system here to keep the cabbage moth off of it. This is our first real big planting of cabbage that we're going to try. Mel loves to make sauerkraut, so we've planted, I think there's 24 cabbages in there. She's hoping that'll give us enough sauerkraut for the year. And this bed is, well, what do you do? These are our tomatoes. It's obviously been overcast, raining, and so nothing is there. Just they're green, they're green, they're green, they're falling off, they're green. It's just, we need sun. They really need sun. But again, we're gonna keep coming down this way. This is where our bit of our fruit forest is. So we've got a few fig trees in here, and olive trees along the right there, figs down the middle, and then this is our beautiful hedge of pigeon pea, which is just, look how tall that is. It's beautiful. It's 2 meters tall, those pigeon peas. And I can't wait for them to produce and to get some lentils into me. Down the end there's a pomegranate. I don't think it's going to be doing a lot in this weather. We've got a bay leaf here. This is our pumpkin or squash or whatever you feel like calling it. And you can see here, look at that. This is from our neighbour, and it's got quite a few nice big ones on it that we're hoping don't go too gross. We might need to think about getting these off the ground possibly and checking out how they're going. But look, even the figs are already starting to wither. It's only just the first couple of days of autumn now, but that's alright. That's how we're looking at the moment. Things are progressing relatively well, I think. Brings us to the end of the garden, brings us to the end of what the water's doing. I think that's it.